For a long time, people have been asking me to write an autobiography. And I've always said, have somebody else write it. And then they explained to me that would not be an autobiography. So that was a dead end.
You know, back when television was black and white, when everything felt just a little too tidy, too polite, there was one man who looked at all of it and thought, why not shake things up? That man was George Schlatter.
Hi, I'm George Schlatter.
I called him God. I think his masterful tool was humor.
Before hashtags and likes, there was laughing. And from those early days till now, George helped shape how we see television, how we see each other. He didn't just influence TV. He was the original influencer.
The genius of George was to take people who weren't really funny and put them in the middle of the madness.
George didn't just make television. He reimagined it with color and chaos and a whole lot of laughter. With Rowan and Martin's Laughing, George took a simple idea, a comedy show, and turned it into a movement. Fast cuts, wild sketches, punchlines flying like confetti. It was unpredictable, outrageous, and somehow it all made perfect sense. He took chances when others played it safe. He gave voices to the unheard, faces to the unseen, and built a revolution, one catchphrase at a time.
Say, suck it to me.
Suck it to me?
George, like Charlton Heston and Moses, parted the Red Sea, and so George was named the Pope of Comedy.
George believed that laughter could do what politics couldn't. Bring people together. He gave us permission to laugh at ourselves. And somehow, in the middle of all that beautiful madness, he found one funny blonde who couldn't stop giggling. Yes, that was me. And I think that's why George was so amazing. He wanted people to laugh out loud. That was George's magic. He saw things in people they didn't even see in themselves. He didn't just break the rules. He rewrote them. At a time when the world felt divided, George built bridges made of laughter. He showed us that comedy wasn't just about jokes. It was about connection, about really seeing one another. And over the next 6 decades, George never stopped. From laughing to real people, from Hollywood to the White House, he kept asking the same question. Why not laugh a little louder? George isn't just a producer. He's a dreamer. He's a rebel. He's the guru of joy. He didn't just make America laugh. He made us think. He made us feel. He reminded us that laughter might just be what keeps us human. Because when George said, "Suck it to me," he wasn't just making a joke. He was making history.
And we are honored to have the one and only George Schlatter joining us here from his home. This is something special. George, welcome to the Jim Masters Show. It is an honor and a pleasure to have you with us today.
Well, thank you very much. I'm a big fan, and I'm glad to be here, and I hope I don't get you in trouble.
You've been talking to my mother again.
How is your mom, by the way?
My mother's doing very well. She loves you, and she loves everything that you've produced and have created for all of our entertainment, and
Thank
for
you.
also the curiosity of life. You've answered so many questions through your humor. You've got us to think, you've got us to feel, and you've got us to take moments to enjoy the craziness of life. And we thank you so very much. You are truly, I know everybody banters that word icon, legend around. You've heard it so many times. You've been awarded so many times through the industry and through the love of fans. But
Thank you.
it's all well earned, and it is all true, my friend.
Thank you. We had a good time.
Yes, you did. And it's talked about in your book and the documentary. And I thank you for this time because I've been looking forward to this, working in television and radio and the broadcast media myself. But for you, growing up in Missouri, you were involved in music, right? The choir and opera.
Yes.
Yeah, tell us about
St.
how
Louis
that all
Municipal Opera. Yeah, that was the Muni Opera in St. Louis. That's right.
how
Did a
did it
lot of
all
stuff.
Yeah, yes, you did. So how do you go from there to what you became? What were those influences at home, growing up in St. Louis? Was the family funny? Did you have a lot of humor around you? Were they observing life and its craziness? Where did it come from for you, George?
My mother was funny, and humor is the panacea. Humor is what gets us through the daily grind, and I had a good time. My mother loved to laugh, and the act of laughing is the greatest release there is, and so I've lived with that, and I've had a really good time, and fortunately, a lot of other people have had fun too.
That's right. And you've certainly been surrounded by so many of those amazing people who have joined you in the crazy pursuits over the years and responsible, of course, we know for Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, but, real people and working with Dinah Shore and Cher and Judy Garland and countless others over the years.
Wow.
You also, I believe you were at Ciro's for a time and you were a bouncer. However, was it your wife that didn't like the word bouncer and wanted you, or your
Yeah,
mother?
we changed that to, I wrote in my bio, it says I was an executive in charge of emergency departures. And Jolene thought that was a little less offensive than the word bouncer. But we did have fun, and then at a time when you could have fun. I'm not too sure I see the world having that much fun now. I see, you know, anger, but I don't see any real fun. And so maybe I make one more one more circle, come back and sock it to the world one more time. We need to laugh. It is the panacea. It is the very structure of our being is to laugh. Little baby, you don't know what they're laughing at, but you do know that that little baby is laughing, and the one that's laughing the most is probably a bright child, and who knows, will grow up to be this.
Right. Exactly. You are, my friend, responsible for hours and hours and hours of incredible television, which is amazing and absolutely spectacular. And just taking a look at some of it here, the Dinah Shore Chevy show, the Judy Garland show is another one, the best on record. I mean, this is like and of course, Jonathan Winters, the Steve Lawrence show, the Danny Thomas show, working with Danny Thomas, Colgate
Wow.
Comedy Hour. Look at all of this. This is incredible. Working with Diana Ross, The Temptations, and Get on Broadway, and just
We had a
it,
good time, all right, that's for sure.
yeah. And
When you
you,
list it all like that, it sounds like an awesome collection, but we had a good time, and it was doing things with people that were not normally seen on television. We took people that were not in television, and we introduced them, and introduced subject matter was another big thing. Big thing with what we talked about, and
yeah,
then the political aspects. So I had a good time. There's no question about that. I had a good time.
working with Richard Pryor and Goldie Hawn and Cher and Frank Sinatra and so many of these. And of course, we had John Barber on our show not that long ago, of course, part of Real People, Speak of America. We also had, look at the amount of shows that we've touched our lives with. Super Things. Willie, Tyler, and Lester were with us recently as guests on the show. Salute to Lady Liberty. That was another. People are looking at this and they're saying, "Oh my God, he did that. He was involved in that. He was a part of that." Yeah, I know a lot of people reference, of course, Laugh-In, and that was, but all the awards shows too that you
Yeah.
were part of. Comedy Hall of Fame, George Burns, Walter Matthau.
Wow.
It really
I'm tired just hearing all of that.
isn't this something else? It's like, I mean, you could definitely have your, feet in the sand with a banana colada in your hand and just swaying back and forth in a hammock in Miami, because you have certainly earned it and you've
Well, you're
touched
very
us.
kind, and but we did it. We didn't do that all at once. We did that
No,
spread out over a long period of time, and
the 75th
then
and
we
the
wrote that
80th.
book. And what I did was I sat down and I wrote down all of my memories, right? And then I gave it to Martha, my assistant, who's bright, and I said, "All right, now take that and take out everything that's going to upset Jolene." So the book, the book is excerpts of what was left after Martha took a shot at taking out everything. See, the idea there is humor is humor is a necessary part of our environment. We have to. A little baby, you see a little baby laughing. You don't know what it's laughing at, but you just see it laughing, and you can make that child laugh. It's good, and the ones that laugh the most are the brightest.
I agree. Yes, absolutely. Because there are a lot of people walking around these days that there's no laughter, there's no joy. And that's something you have always wanted to bring to our lives. And you've done it so beautifully as a
Thank you.
successful producer and director and writer, responsible, as I said, for hundreds of
Well,
hours of television series and specials. And you really changed the face of television when you created and produced Laugh-In and Real People and all the others. But
thank you.
the award shows too, you were working on those even well before, right?
Yeah, we did comedy awards or whatever, saluting shows that were being overlooked by the normal award shows. See, if you can find a hole where there's nothing now, then put a show in there you got to hit. I had a good time. That was the secret, I think, of everything you just listed. Was we had a good time, and we brought people into television that weren't. Red Fox couldn't get on television, so we brought him in, and he did like 5 or 6 hours, and we took out everything that you couldn't use and put the rest of it on. And Red Fox became huge. Uh, you got to find something that doesn't exist now and put comedy in there. We need more comedy, not just in the White House, but
Everywhere
overall.
in all of our lives. What would you consider early on, George, the very first door opening break for you where people said, George is terrific. George has this brilliant mind. We want to work with George. We want to give George opportunities. And I know you created a good deal of your opportunities, but was there a classic, very important moment in your life and career that you recall that was a moment that really got the ball rolling for you?
Well, I think probably. Well, I did. I've done so much. It's awesome, and most of what I did was basically controversial because I would do things shows and fill a hole that had nothing in it. But most, I think, the real explosion probably was Laugh-In. Before that, there was Danny Thomas and other shows and so forth. But Laugh-In broke all the rules, and they broke the rules with a cast of people who couldn't really normally be on television because there was no place for them. So we used a cast of people that didn't have an avenue into television, and then subject matter came in. A guy, writer by the name of Digby Wolf, came from had been had been thrown out of New Zealand and well, 3 countries, and he came and wrote a lot of controversial things. The thing is, you got to have a good time, and breaking the rules probably is the key to most fun, because that you can have the most fun breaking the rules. And we broke we broke a lot of them. So I don't know if I could name one thing. It would probably be Laugh-In was the biggest explosion because at one point Laugh-In was the top-rated show on all of television. And
Absolutely.
we introduced people who could not get on television because they were not another Johnny Carson or another dinosaur. They were original, unique, and people looking to have a good time. And we gave them the arena in which they could laugh and get. If you could probably get people a little upset or make people a little nervous, they laugh more. And we made a lot of people very nervous.
What was the idea, the initial dream and vision for Laugh-In? It wasn't anything like that on television, and it was at the height of when variety shows, Cara Burnett's show, and other great series were coming out and being seen by the public, and television was shifting. And it was even prior to like a Norman Lear and all of his shows, All in the Family and all. What was your vision for Laugh-In? What did you hope people would get from it?
It was. I went to the network, and they had nothing to put on at 8 o'clock Monday night, and there was no, they got no rating at all. And I said, well, I'll give you a show, and it'll cost nothing. And so I said, they said, well, we'll let you do it for 3 weeks until you get a real show ready. So I said, that'll be fine. And so we came on with this group of people who were available because there was no place for them in television. And they came into the studio, and we taped sometimes till two o'clock in the morning, and we would tape everything and then throw out what we couldn't use. And so that was this composite picture of outrageous people, young, happy people, saying outrageous things and having a good time. So it was a happening. It was not a television show. It was an experiment, and I wish we were doing more like that now. Everything now is kind of conforms, and it's I can't watch it. It's kind of boring. And I never thought I would say that, but right now there's a vacuum. We walk in now today with some ideas and people. There are people out there who grew up on Laugh In and Turn On and all of that, and we need to give them a window. There's so many opportunities now, and I don't see anything really inventive. I don't see anything. I don't see much adventure on television. So maybe if I was 10 years younger, but I'm getting ready with I'm getting ready with a few things that I want to do that will just. I see nothing on television makes you nervous now. Everything we did used to make you nervous, and so I want to do some shows now that'll make people nervous.
When you first put it on, what was the network's reaction and what was the initial feedback from the public?
It was shock. It was shock. They first of all, the editing was so brief, and so tight that when you were laughing at this joke and saying you can't say that, we were doing something else that you couldn't say. So it was not a television show. It was an experience, and they weren't going to air it. They said, "Wait, this isn't a show. This is." I said, "Well, look, the audience laughed. The kids that that came to see it laughed, and they said, yeah, but this doesn't make any sense." I said, laughter makes sense, and so we went on the air with that first three shows, which they weren't going to air because they said they were they disturbed people. They made people nervous, and I said, yes, hello, yes. And when the first three shows got on the air, and then it just exploded, and we had a good time. We had a really, really good time.
Even before that, we showed in that trailer video, which was from the fabulous documentary, The Legend of George Schlatter, the wonderful relationship in working with Dinah Shore, who always had this squeaky clean and warm
Yes.
and loving personality on camera, but she had a saucy side too, right? Could be very funny, and yeah.
Well, one of the reasons I got the Dinah Shore show is because she wanted to do more comedy because everybody took Dinah very serious, and
Right.
Dinah was outrageous and had a good time. The secret, I think, is having a good time and doing things that make people uncomfortable. Is the basis of a lot of humor, and we did make people uncomfortable. But Dinah was a real breakthrough, and then we did the best on record, which was a salute to the recording artists. That didn't exist. No award show existed saluting the recording artists, and all those places where there was nothing in there to do, we filled those spots. And I got to say, I had a good time, and fortunately, the audience had a good time as well.
You assembled an extraordinary cast of characters too. The incomparable Joanne Worley being a part of it, Art
Yes.
Johnson, and Goldie Hawn and Lily Tomlin. How did you come across Lily Tomlin first?
Well, see, we've got to understand those people were available because there was no place for them on television. There was nothing where there was no place for them to do what they did, and so we took Goldie Hawn was doing it was a dancer, and they said. So I said, we're not using dancers. So she came up to the office and sat in this big red leather chair and read a piece, right? and it was the most screwed up thing you ever heard. And she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll do it again." I said, "No, Goldie, that'll be just fine." And from then on, we never gave her a chance to really rehearse everything. Accident helped us a lot, and I missed the adventure that we were having then. And I wish that now they would try more things and more adventure. And also, things run too long, like my speech now is taking too long. But they've got to
Just
have more
enough.
fun, and they've got to talk about things that are not talked about with people who are not talking about it, and fill those gaps. Because television now is just a vacuum. I mean, I love television. I grew up on television, but I wish there was more adventure. I wish there was no more people that you don't see, and you have a home for them. Because Laugh-In had people on the show didn't have any place else to go. Joanne Worley was in a major event, and Ruth Buzzy, they all those people were available because there was no show around that could use them, and we put them all into one show, and we had a good time. We had a good time. It was an adventure.
Yes,
I wish there was
absolutely.
more adventure on
More
television comedy now.
adventure, more variety as well, too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Did
can't
you
get much funnier than some of our politicians now.
no,
Whoa.
we we were blessed as we are having you on our show to have Marty Croft on the show,
Yes.
and Marty was wonderful, and he has passed, and we just lost Sid as well. Did you guys, Sid and Marty Croft,
Oh yeah,
pass?
we had a good time with them. See,
Yeah.
that we were a place where like Sid and Marty Croft didn't have a home, and we were a place where all of those misfits found a home, and that's what was part of the adventure. I liked the Crofts very much, um, and they had a good time. People would come in and laugh, and they'd be coming down the hall, and we would grab them and bring them into the studio for 5 minutes, and they would do three pieces, and it worked. And um, it was an adventure, and I was young and full of hell, and we found this group of misfits that didn't have a home because there was no place for Goldie
Mm,
Hawn, a little girl who was a dancer who got things screwed
yeah.
up. Gold and
Yeah. Lily
Ruth Buzzy and
Tomlin
Artie
and
Johnson. Artie Johnson was selling suits at Carol's,
right.
and the idea of having a funny Nazi shook everybody up. The network went crazy, and it worked. we
You
put we
also
put comedy and we put people where there was nothing before.
nothing like it before.
No,
In many respects, a
we had
lot
a
of
good
time.
time,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I miss
And
I miss adventure
I
now. I
know, I
miss I
know.
miss.
We all
I
do.
I wrote this book. What happened was they wanted me to write a book, so I sat down and I wrote. I dictated a whole big book, and I gave it to Martha, and I said, "Now, I want you to take this and take everything out that'll make Jolene nervous." And the
Yeah.
book became about a half as long. But the book reminisces about our adventure. Television was not a show. Television was an adventure. At its
Yeah, like
best, it was an
event.
adventure.
Yeah.
When Johnny Carson came on, he was an adventure. The Smothers
Yes.
Brothers, there was no place for them. So anyhow, we had fun, and we broke rules, and I'm thinking about doing it. I'm thinking about doing it again, coming back
Please
because we're ready.
do.
We're ready for a revolution.
Please do. You have a wonderful story about how you ended up being able to get President Richard Nixon to say, "Suck it to me," which we have seen multiple times over the years, but it wasn't as easy as just seeing it on TV. "Suck it to me." There was a
No.
whole story
Well,
behind the
see,
scenes, right?
the way he said it, it was in disbelief. We wanted him to say "sock it to me." He
"Suck it
said
to
"sock
me."
it to me," and he was amazed that we asked him. And I said that'll be fine. And we gave him a chance to say no, but he missed the opportunity. So we went on and said, so, and the idea of having Richard Nixon in a comedy show at that point was outrageous, but it was perfect because there was nothing about him funny except some of his decisions. And that broke the mold. That broke the window to let more unbelievable people to come in. Richard Nixon and William Buckley, a lot of those people that were not known for being funny exploded on laughing.
Now,
So
when
I mean, it,
Richard Nixon was on set, his people were there too, right? Wasn't there?
yeah, we
Weren't
came down the hall. We came down the hall, and Richard Nixon was taping a political message, and we wanted him to do the show. And Paul Keyes was Richard Nixon's closest friend, and Paul was very, very straight. And he went down the hall, and Nixon said, "You want me to say 'sock it to me?'" And we said, "That'd be fine." And that's what we used on the show. Accident. We allowed accident to not only sneak into our format, but to take it over. And you watched Laughing, you were aware that there was a lot of accident happening. And a lot of nobody really was too sure what they were doing, which was perfect. I miss that kind of adventure now. So it'll come back.
How did the idea of the wall, where everybody would open up the little door, say a
Yeah,
funny
well, what
line, and
happened
close
was
it? That was
Jay Croft
terrific.
was our set designer, and he brought in some material for the script book. And I said, it had these little boxes in it. I said, could those be doorways? And he said, yeah. So we built that wall. And what would happen is we had sections of that wall we could take with us to people's homes. So we could take that wall to the home, and we could get people doing cameo lines as if they were in the studio, and they weren't. They were in that joke wall, and that added the adventure, added accident, it added the feeling of danger, feeling of something off balance, thing that made you nervous. Laughing not only made you laugh, it made you nervous, and that was part of my goal.
How did you find Dick Martin and Dan Rowan to be the
Well, what
host and
happened
the
was
face?
I couldn't sell Laugh-In. They were not going to do it. The network said this is too crazy. We can't put this doesn't make any sense. So I said, all right, well we got Dan and Dick. I said if they host it, then they came in, and so we brought them into the opening, the closing, in one spot. That was the original deal with Rowan and Martin because they added some sanity to an insane situation, and they were getting ready to split up, by the way, and then we brought them in and they taped that first spot, and they had a good time and they laughed. And see, accident. If we could maybe introduce more accident into television now, we'd get more Dick Martin and Dan Rowan. They didn't know what they were going to do when they came on the show. Dick Martin made no sense at all. They didn't even come to rehearsal. And so when you put them on, you saw two people who were having a good time but were lost, surrounded by all of those kind of wackos. Uh, that feeling of adventure, the feeling of a trap door opening, feeling of accident. And I miss that today in television. Everybody's worried about whether they can be dirty or not. Don't be dirty, just be funny. And there's so much now to be funny about. And Norman Lear came in and did that in sitcoms, you know. So I love Norman Lear, and Aaron Spelling did that in sitcoms, and then we came along with Laugh In, and Norman Lear did a lot for television, and I miss now today. What there's just so much out there. There's so many things out there. Is anybody really focused on demanding your attention? And getting ready. I'm getting
It's
myself
very
worked up
true.
into a
No, it's
situation
true.
to do another one like that.
There's so much streaming and channels, and sometimes it's all a blur now. To try to capture people's attention is extraordinary because the ratings, you guys, what used to get a 50 share and all kinds
It
of things.
needs it needs focus. And when somebody comes on with the right outrageous approach, the outrageous situation that opens a window, you'll find the audience will flock to it because I think we're hungry for something that demands our attention, and that's what Laugh-In was then. And I'm seriously I'm seriously thinking about sneaking in the back door and coming in with some more outrageous things. There's so much more to be funny about now, you know? I believe that if somebody comes in with something that just blows open the doors and brings in new people and new ideas, new colors, new costumes, that the audience will be gravitated to it and say, "Yeah, I want something that holds my interest." See, you don't have to watch television now. You can just listen to it. Well, television demanded your attention, and Laugh-In was the vehicle that demanded your attention. So
Right,
I'm not.
exactly.
I
Yeah.
hate to sound like I'm raving about the show we did because it changed television to where everything became a little more brief after Laugh-In.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
I'm missing adventure. What do you see that really excites you? I got to go home and see this. I want to watch it. And I think when somebody comes in with something like that that blows the windows open and comes in that demands your attention, I believe it'll get a huge rating.
I agree 100%. Yes, absolutely
That's
right.
the
And
appeal of
that's
Goldie Hawn. Goldie Hawn came on this gorgeous girl, right? And came on with great body doing dancing in a bikini and getting confused. When we auditioned Goldie, she read a piece and screwed it up and she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll do it again." I said, "No, Goldie, that'll be just fine." And from then on, she never got to rehearse. She never got to see the script. And it was just an adventure. It was a big playpen for an adorable woman who I love to this day. She's had quite a career.
see, that's fantastic. And to have those memories like that and to be able to share them. We have this wonderful photo here that you sent with you, Goldie, and Lily Tomlin together. Um, so much laughter and you know what was wonderful too about it all, George, you when they were on Laugh-In and basically everything you've ever touched, you got to see these wacky zany sides of people, but it's almost this authenticity that also came with it. There was the wacky zany sides and all the humor, but there was an authenticity to what you were doing, which I think was the golden ticket as well. Am I right on that?
Yeah, there was an undercurrent of truth in some of that. Lily Tomlin was going back to New York because things weren't happening out here. She came down the hall, and we gave her a piece, and she she read it, and she said, "Well, I'll do it again. No, it'll be just fine." And what happened was, she said, "Well, what else?" And I said, "That's else." So I gave her a whole stack of different pieces and carry. See, every one of the things that Lily did was a different character, another invention. She became all of those different people. Well, there was no place until we developed the editing techniques that we had. There was no place to do that many characters. Well, Lily in one show may do 6 or 8 or 10 characters, and that format allowed for that. Lily Tomlin is one of the comedy geniuses of our age, and a delightful person. And she came in, and every week came in with a different person. It wasn't just a voice; it was a whole personality that came in with. And so, see, I missed the adventure we was having then. And with Lily Tomlin,
That's what it
had
was.
auditioned for other shows and was coming down the hall, and we said, "Come on in here." She came in and just started doing characters. And she said, "Which one you want to do?" I said, "I want to do all of them." And
Right.
only in the format of Laughing could we make that happen. You know?
You, when we had, mentioning we had Willie, Tyler, and Lester on the show recently, and they, of course, partners in crime and beloved characters, and were on the show recently talking about the wonderful opportunities that you gave Willie, Tyler, and Lester on Laugh.
Yes.
And Rich Little was on just a couple weeks ago, and he talked about, and you might be able to elaborate on this in reference to the wonderful Judy Garland, because of course you worked with Judy. He said something to the effect that Judy Garland didn't necessarily uh, like to be around impressionists because impressionists would make her fart.
Well, Judy
So
was an adventure too. Judy was a joke junkie. Judy loved to laugh, and Judy would go for anything outrageous. See, that's what I miss. I miss the feeling of adventure. Judy Garland was not known to be funny, but when you put Judy Garland in the right situation, she was gold, and that's where a lot of them were. And so we had fun with Judy, and Judy was uh, Judy, Liza, all of those people were gravitated to do Laugh-In. You saw people on Laugh-In that didn't appear
yeah,
anywhere else because they knew they were going to have a good time. They'd come walking in the studio. We would tape them, edit out what we didn't want to use, and keep what we did, and then put that on the air the next week. and it was the front page of the store of the newspapers one week, and then 3 days later we were doing jokes about it. See, it was an adventure. That's what I miss, I think, on television today.
Now,
The
what
feeling of adventure, the feeling of
adventure?
danger. And
Danger, right? Curiosity. Now, was there a story that in the beginning, uh, as far as meeting Judy Garland, you were a little hesitant only because
they wanted me to meet Judy Garland,
what do you say
and
to
I
a
didn't
Judy
know it. It was
Garland?
about 8 o'clock at night, and I'd been there all day talking about doing a show, and they said they wanted me to come downstairs, and I walked in, and there was Judy Garland. And like you can imagine now, this was many years ago. But here I am, a young producer, been there all day. I was a mess and whatever. And here I walk in, there's Judy Garland. And I was stunned, because you would be too. So I said, she said, so you're Judy Garland. She said, so you're George Schlatter. I said, yes. I said, and I don't know why, but I said, Miss Garland, I don't care what you may have heard about me, but there's no truth to the rumor that I'm difficult. And she said, you're difficult? I said, see, even you've heard it. And so she said, let's get out of here. And we got out. I met her, and maybe 3 minutes after I met her, we were going out to get a vodka. And from there on, we had fun. Judy would try anything. And she was what people didn't realize. Judy was a real joke junkie, and she
Yes,
loved to laugh. She loved to be funny and do funny things. So did
ab-
Liza. See, if you
absolutely.
can find most people, I mean, Edward G. Robinson, we made laugh, and most people love to laugh, love to make people laugh, love the sound of laughter. It's just how do you generate that? You generate that with chance, with accident, and with the feeling of having a good time. We would tape sometimes till 2 o'clock in the morning, and people would just come by the studio just to laugh, and we'd sitting in the audience, we'd pull them out of the audience and put them on stage. I miss in television today. I miss the sense of adventure. I miss the danger of comedy's
Take,
dangerous because
taking
the worst thing in the world
chances.
is to try to be funny and have it not funny. Oh boy!
Now,
So
so
if you'll
so
take that chance, you have the chance of a big success.
you had
But it's a gamble.
opportunities to work with for the 75th as well as 80th celebrations of Frank Sinatra as well. And there, of course, is Frank and Barbara Sinatra during the 80th birthday
Yeah.
celebration. What was that like, the relationship with Frank Sinatra over
The
the
secret,
years?
the secret with Sinatra, it was making him laugh. If you could make him laugh. Now you better be careful because if you were if you thought you were funny and he didn't laugh, you had a serious problem. But Frank was susceptible. He was vulnerable to comedy because he realized the whole world had him in such awe that they were afraid of him, right? And I didn't have enough sense to be afraid of it. There was nothing else to do. So I would go in and we would make Frank laugh. And boy, once he laughed, the world was his oyster. It was all gold. But we had more fun with him than you cannot imagine the laughs we had with him because it was unpredictable, with Frank and Jilly Rizzo doing comedy with Jilly. Did you ever see Jilly?
Oh,
So
yeah.
all those people, the world needs to laugh. When you have a little baby and the little baby laughs, you know it's a bright child. You don't know what it's laughing at, but you love the sound of its laughter. And that's what we need. We need more of it. I don't know what we're going to do about that, but I'll get to that in our next interview.
You also were, we had John Barber on the show not that long ago. Wonderful character that he is, and Real People. How did Real People come about? Another groundbreaking, unique
Well,
experience.
real people came about because there were all of these people that we were traveling around doing jokes and whatever, and we found out there were funny people out there that were funnier than the people on television, and they were real characters. So we went out. We would find people. We were supposed to do a show back east someplace, and the interviews we were supposed to do didn't show up. So they said, "Well, what are we going to do?" I said, "Well, find somebody." So they said, "Well, the only people we could find are two minors but they're deaf, and both of them talk at the same time." I said, "Sounds good to me." So they taped these two minors who interrupted each other, and when you saw that it was gold, these two minors had a conversation, but neither one could hear the other one. and that was one of my favorite pieces. But that invented a new kind of comedy of people who were not funny, not comics, but were funny to look at and funny to listen to. And that became a whole show based upon these two miners talking at the same time, neither one listening to the other, because they were both deaf. They'd been living out in the sticks someplace. And so we brought that piece back and put it together, and then that became a whole show of looking on location for interesting, funny, outrageous, irreverent accident people. And that became the series, Accident. Cherish an accident. If you can find the right accident, you've got a hit.
That's exactly right. And a lot of them have come your way, and you've worked with them and made gold with them. I want to let the viewers around the world know that our very illustrious guest, American television producer and writer, and just this extraordinary gentleman, has received numerous honors and awards, including 25 Emmy Award nominations, 3 Emmys, 3 Image Awards, Golden Globe Awards, Television Critics Awards, Directors Guild Award, Producer Guild Man of the Year, and many others. And on its 25th anniversary, the Television Academy honored him for his outstanding contribution to television, and in 1989 awarded a star on the Hollywood Boulevard Walk of Fame. And all that happened on a Thursday, right?
See, but all of that adventure and accident, cherish an accident, look for them. And when you find the right accident, enjoy it, because right next to that accident, there's a hit. And I've been very, very lucky. I'm married to a great woman who was Ernie Kovacs's straight woman. And
Yes.
She loves to laugh. And Ernie Kovacs loved Jolene. And we would go with Ernie, and he was fun to be with. Have a good time. That's the thing. I hope I'm
There
not
you
boring
are.
you now with this.
No,
But
no.
find.
Yeah.
You can look at a man with a limp, and it's pathetic and sad. But if that man with a limp trips and knocks something over, maybe you got a good blackout. Enjoy accident. Accident has been a large part of my
Yeah.
career and my life.
And you mentioned your wonderful Jolene. There you are with Jolene and Lily Tomlin and
And we also introduced a lot of women. We focused
Goldie Hawn.
on women. With women on the show, and also women writers, with Carolyn Raskin and the rest of them, who were writers who saw things differently than men, and focus on find something that doesn't exist now and use it. That was our rule.
Exactly. I mentioned the Hollywood Walk of Fame. There you are, getting that. And Dinah Shore is there, of course, with you, rooting you on as well, which was really, really something quite special and very beautiful, my friend. Here's another great shot with Diane Sawyer, Jack Nicholson, Mike Nichols as well. And yourself right next to Diane and Mike. Wonderful memories. Do you recall when this was a wonderful?
Yeah, memories, and luck. The chance of me sitting down with that group of people were very slim, because we were at that point doing comedy, and a lot of comedy, and the idea of putting our comedy in with a group of those straight people worked, and it was it was fun. Have a good time. We are here such a short time. Enjoy it. Have a good time. Have laughter is the best therapy in the world.
You got to do that.
And,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I haven't proved that. I haven't proved that in this interview, but
yes, you have.
In there's a laugh.
There's lots, including I had the opportunity once to ride in the Clyde Brady Cole Brothers Circus on an elephant for a television station here on the East Coast. Lucille Ball on an elephant.
Accident. Here again, accident. I was signed to do a show, and they sold a Steve Lawrence show, and nobody. He was the last show that they had a time period to put a show in, and so Steve Lawrence. I said I would do it, but there was nobody. There was nobody to do a guest shot with Steve Lawrence. So I said to Steve, I said, I would take him to New York. Steve says, I'm not going to do the Lucille Ball show with Lucy. Why would I do that? I said, okay, Steve, but what do I do with this elephant? Accident. See, accident. He said, what elephant? I said, well, I've hired this elephant to come to New York and for you to come down through Schubert Alley with Judy Garland. So he said, "Oh God damn! All right." So he do it. So we brought the elephant in, and Steve and Lucy were going to come down Schubert Alley, and they're supposed to be 1 o'clock in the morning, but it was a Saturday night, and the theater got out at 11, and so we said, "Wait a minute, the theater's going to get out. There's going to be people." So we brought the elephant and Judy and Steve, and we had them do it together. We got arrested. She wouldn't go to jail without the elephant. An accident, accident. That elephant through Schubert Alley goes down in history as one of the most outrageous things ever done in New York. Again, accident. Have a good time. Also, if you can laugh at the right time, you can get by with murder. You got to be careful.
I mean, that's
That
incredible.
it was
Lucy was
Lucy.
willing to try and do anything, wasn't she?
Lucy?
Yeah.
Well, no, nobody ever asked her to do anything like that. They
To
wanted
do
her to come
something.
to New York. She said, "Why would I go to New York to do the Steve Lawrence show?" She said, "I don't even know who he is." I said, "Well, we've got this elephant." And that was the key. To Lucy. Once I said, "We've got this elephant," Lucy said, "Oh, God, when do you need me?"
She
And
was
she came to New York, and that loomed large in Lucy's career in her memory book
absolutely
about riding the elephant through Schubert Alley at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night.
one of the.
Accident. Cherish
It's
accident.
all
Look for them and love them because accidents
happy
work.
accidents. You've had many, and they've been significant. Working, of course, with and having a wonderful friendship with one of the greatest entertainers of all time, the one and only Sammy Davis Jr. And there is the
Yeah.
60th anniversary special, and of course, you're involved in that. And look at all of there's Michael Jackson, Stevie Wonder, and Frank Sinatra, Mike Tyson, and it's unbelievable. Steve Lawrence is there actually too. So many incredible people. Quincy Jones and
Yep.
Eddie Murphy.
Yep.
Sammy Davis Jr. was quite special, wasn't he?
He was awesome. He was awesome, and one of the most talented people ever. And so when you booked Sammy, you got about 8 different people. He was a dancer, singer, musician, everything. And that particular show was of great appeal to me because, like Mike Tyson, you wouldn't book to do a comedy show. But when Mike Tyson showed up with Sammy
Yes.
Davis, hysterical moment. See, take those moments that would appear to be an accident to anyone else and cherish it and enjoy it and learn to laugh with it. Laughter is the panacea. Laughter is the solution for
You
much of my life.
talking about some 70 years in network television. You produced first 5 years of the Grammy Awards plus series and specials starring Frank Sinatra, Judy Garland, Eddie Murphy, Cher, Elton John, Bette Midler, Goldie Hawn, the wonderful Liza Minnelli, Michael Jackson, Doris Day, the
And
incredible Richard Pryor, Shirley MacLaine, Bill Cosby,
yeah, yeah.
Jackie Gleason,
And
Diana
that
Ross.
might have all just been on one show.
On one show, Nat King Cole, Placido Domingo, Lena Horne, and of course the unbelievably funny and witty Jonathan Winters.
Oh.
God bless him.
Yeah, I wish I had a clip of it. Jonathan Winters. I told the show with Jonathan Winters and a guest shot with Art Carney, and that was the week that somebody got shot. And we were here. We were Monday. We had a reading, and we were supposed to tape on Saturday, and there was nobody's doing anything because everybody was moaning the death of Kennedy. And so I brought Art Carney and Jonathan Winters, and I sent down the hall, and we got every prop in the building. And we brought, and Jonathan and Art Carney stood there and just did prop jokes for an hour. Turned into one of the funniest shows I ever did. And it was accident. Cherish the accident because within accident, there
That's
is
the
some
theme.
pain, there is some danger. But if you look at it a little angle, accident has great possibility for humor and laughter.
Absolutely. In 1987, you created and for 15 years produced the American Comedy Awards. And
Yep.
it was a fabulous television event designed to acknowledge the contributions and achievements of comedic actors and performers, and
But nobody had ever done a show celebrating comedians. They would hire comedians to introduce the opening, right, and the closing, but nobody ever thought of celebrating the comics among us who are the backbone of our show business.
that's
Without
right.
comedy, you wouldn't have any show business. And television desperately needed to celebrate, honor, and enjoy the people who make us laugh. And there's not I miss that a little bit now. I don't see much accident. I don't see much laughter. I don't see much people breaking up and getting hysterical over nothing. But I think it's going to come back because as the world gets a little more serious and more in pain,
Yeah,
the possibility to be funny and to enjoy laughter is not only just an opportunity; it's a compulsion. You have to laugh,
you have
and
to laugh. It's
and,
so
and, and
important.
that's my I did a lot of variety shows, and we did the Grammy Awards and Dinah and Lucy and then the Judy Garland and all of those. Did hundreds of shows, and a lot of them were variety shows. But my favorites were the comedy shows because that was the most rewarding sound you can get in the studio is when the audience just comes in and just laughs, and
Well,
it's a necessity.
that's what you've said, because you say of all the work you've done, you're perhaps most proud of your involvement in the early careers of performers like Goldie Hawn, Lily Tomlin, Roseanne, Robin
Yeah.
Williams, Ellen DeGeneres, and others. I mean, Robin Williams was in a whole other world of his own. Extraordinary talent gone too
I was
soon,
in
huh?
San Francisco, and Robin Williams was there on the street in overalls, barefoot, right, in a straw hat, and he had a fishpole, and he was hanging his fishpole out over the audience. And I said, "What are you doing?" Here he was, barefoot with coveralls. He said, "I'm fishing for assholes." So I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." So anyhow, I said, "Look, get straight, take a shower, come into the studio next Monday, and we'll see what we do." And he came in a suit, and from then on, we never gave Robin a script. Robin came in, and it was all accident. And see, if we can cherish, savor, and search for accident makes you laugh. It's a you realize when something's an accident, you realize you're looking at something real that's funny, and that was with Robin Williams. When Robin Williams met
Incredible.
Frank Sinatra couldn't believe Robin Williams, and
You, I want to let the audience know too. Most recently, you produced a comedy collection for Sirius Radio, and Still Laughing. The Stars Celebrate for Netflix as well, which I think is fantastic. And something else that the audience should know, in addition to this illustrious career, which we are so blessed by, and all the laughs and everything that you've given of yourself to us, you have been honored for your showmanship and your involvement in so many charitable causes like Finding a Cure, Nancy Reagan, A Love Story for juvenile diabetes research. That has been something very near and dear to you.
yes.
Tell us about the importance
Well,
of giving back.
the only thing better than hearing people laugh is to making people care, and it's not enough just to do a fundraiser. It's not enough to send us your check, but to come in and partake in an event that makes people laugh as the panacea, as the solution for comedy and the solution for reality. And so much of my life has been spent making people laugh for causes. And Danny Thomas, specials I did with Danny Thomas and specials with Red Fox and Richard Pryor. I mean, I've had opportunities to enjoy relationships with some truly unique, unbelievable, unbelievable, bizarre people, and we've had fun. Boy, we've had a good time. And if something doesn't work, even that can be funny if you do it short enough. There's great comedy performers, great comedy people, and comedy is not just the result. Comedy is the reason to do much of what we do.
If you were to tell that little kid growing up in St. Louis something important to look forward to and talk to the younger version of George Schlatter, what would you say to the younger version of George?
Hmm. Have a good time. Uh, Don't take everything too seriously, because underneath your worst accidents there is some comedy. Comedy is the panacea. Comedy is the Novocaine for society. So enjoy. We're not here very long, you know. Our whole life expectancy is very short. Enjoy it. Look at the world, see what things in the world that are funny, and have a good time. Enjoy your visit here. Enjoy your time. Think about Goldie Hawn. Goldie Hawn had more fun than anybody I ever knew, and she was a dancer. When she came in and we realized that she could make people laugh, her whole life changed, and people didn't just love Goldie Hawn; they adored Goldie Hawn. And Lily Tomlin was the same thing. These people were off center; they were on an angle, and enjoy the opportunity. That's the best sound in the world. Once an actor hears the laugh, they are seduced into thinking that that sound is the most the most the seductive sound in the world is the sound of laughter, and seek it and enjoy it. That's the best thing.
And it's
And I don't just
also
mean in the White House.
right. It's also very,
Mm.
it's also very healing as well too. And George, what are some of those blessings and joys before we go in your life that keep you doing what you do and celebrating it with all of us?
Well, the people with whom I've had an opportunity to have fun. Of course, then I start with Jolene, my wife Jolene, and my children. And comedy has solved many problems for me. I had polio when I was a kid, and then the idea of learning to walk again, and realizing how ridiculous I looked when I couldn't walk, and knowing how funny that was, it helped overcome a lot of stuff. Enjoy. We're here such a brief time. Enjoy it. Look at the world and look at it slightly angle, and then realize that even our mistakes are funny. You know,
It's
not
so
all of
true.
them, but
Not
because I've
all
done
of
some
them.
shows that didn't work. By the way, I've done some real turkeys, and even those I enjoyed the experience.
I love the room that you're in with all of the photos over the years and just, of course, the Emmys and the awards. And it's just a beautiful representation of all that you have done and continue to do. You've heard it from lots of people, but you really have made a marked difference in the lives of millions of people. And younger generations are rediscovering or discovering for the first time your work, and they're appreciating it and loving it. So your work will stand the test of time. It's touched generations and it continues to. And we thank you so much for that,
If
George.
I can feel that we've generated an interest in people, in young people, in making people laugh, the seductive sound of laughter, if we've made that obvious and vulnerable and valuable, then we've accomplished something, because that's the most fun you can have, the most, you know.
Absolutely. And there is the book, Still Laughing, A Life in Comedy, the one and only George Schlatter. And you can get it at Amazon and where books are sold. And of course, the documentary. And of course, his amazing website, georgeschlatter.com. Everything George.
Did you hear
Thanks
this?
for. Yeah,
Hey, thank you, thank you. This has been fun. And if you're going to use any of it, let me know.
we're going to use all of it and then some. George, you are a blessing truly to all of us. Thank
Whoa.
you. And thank your
I will say,
team.
nobody's ever said that before. Use my name and blessing in
And
the same
blessing
sentence is a
together.
new thing.
Thank your wonderful team around you as well, because it takes a village. And thank you for your generosity of time. The door is open for you. And I hope you enjoyed the time with me as much as I have with you.
We enjoyed it a lot. Thank you for having us. I hope it worked.
It has worked. It has worked. George, you have worked all these years. Be well, my friend. Thank you
Thank
so very
you. This
much.
was fun.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Please put that in writing and address it management, as my
I
father
will.
has always
I'll
said.
send it in bold type. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, George. You take
Okay.
care now. The one and only George Schlatter joining us here on the show. And we really just scratched the surface of his illustrious career and the many, many years of incredible joy he has presented to all of us. We thank him for his generosity of time as well. He's got a lot of things he's working on, a lot of things that he is doing. Of course, you remember Laugh-In, which we talked quite extensively about, but still much more to talk about with that. And of course, Real People. He has been lauded, applauded, rewarded, celebrated, and for good reason. He has touched our lives, as I could not say enough. We appreciate all of the video and photos coming to us from George Schlatter Productions. We thank them very, very much for all of these wonderful, beautiful trips down memory lane. Lily Tomlin and Goldie Hawn. He spoke so highly of both of them. And look at just the smile on George's face, just having a ball. Look at Goldie and Lily. I mean, just having a ball. Could you imagine just being a fly on the wall? And look at the great talent here too. Sarah Purcell and Byron Allen. Look what's happened with him. I mean, his incredible career as well. And being surrounded by all of these amazing people over the years. And of course, Dan and Dick on Laugh-In. It just goes on and on and on. And Frank and Barbara Sinatra. And we showed this earlier too. This is another fantastic one. And there is Jolene, his fabulous wife right there to the right of him. This is at the, of course, incredible, she's very involved in the National Comedy Center. Something very, very special. Here's another great shot of Lily and Goldie and George having some more fun together. Wonderful stories about Judy Garland and Sammy Davis Jr. Of course, he worked with Flip Wilson too, and Red Fox, and all of them, and all true legends. Many are no longer with us, and but yet to be able to honor them and remember them is something very, very special. We hope you enjoyed this, folks. And again, I encourage you to get the book. It is a page turner. It is something very, very special. And whether you work in entertainment, or television, the arts, or you're just a fan of all these shows and you want to know a little bit more about the man that made it happen, here's the book. Go get it. Add it to your collection. Still Laughing, A Life in Comedy. A brilliantly, beautifully written book. And also lots of great photos in there as well. And of course, the documentary. He's always got so many great things he's working on. Thanks so much for being with us as well, everybody. I am Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time till next time. And we appreciate you joining us here on the Jim Masters Show, Celebrity Talk Show series. Don't forget to love one another, take care of one another, and don't forget to do the very same for yourself. If you enjoyed this episode, give it a like on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. There's hundreds of celebrity friends and special guests who've stopped by over the years to say hello to all of us and share their stories so you can see them in the archives. And of course, share this as well. And drop a comment below. What's your favorite George Schlatter story and show and production? So many of them. Did you like Laugh-In, Real People, some of the other great specials that he talked about as well? Drop a comment and say hello. Be well, everybody. Thanks for being with us. And come see us next time for the next episode of the Jim Masters Show. We love you all. And cheers.